Pearson. He got it. Touchdown.
All right. Welcome into Now About Them Cowboys. This is episode number 20. This evening, I am joined by a special guest, and we are going to be recapping an emotional, draining, tough preseason loss to the Seattle Seahawks. And this evening, I am joined by Iisha Morrison of DallasCowboys.com, Girls Talk, Boys Talk, and one of my favorite shows of all time, The Draft Show.
Yeah.
No, you did a phenomenal job this year, Iisha. So how are we doing this evening?
I am doing well. It was definitely an emotionally draining game, given just how late the game was, but then also too just feeling the emotions of what happened with DeMarvion Overshown, which I know we'll get to, and John Stevens. I think Sheldrick Redwine had an injury. It was a tough night as far as injuries go, after being able to kind of escape a lot of that last week. So yeah, I'm just still trying to calm down, really, but everything else is been okay today. It's been a normal Sunday.
Yeah. So Seattle is kind of a place where there's usually a lot of emotions. Romo went down. I remember where I was when he went down with a back injury. I remember Zeke coming in, running over Cam Chancellor. So the highs and the lows. So
Yeah.
at least even though Romo went down, there was some hope and highs with that game. With this game, I would say there are definitely some high notes, and we're going to touch on that. But, it was tough seeing Overshown go down because there was a lot of positivity and potential for him this year. Last week I spoke about it. I likened it to like in baseball when you're in a late season run. And I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but I like this aspect of it. When you're in like September, October, getting ready for a playoff push, and you bring up somebody from the minor leagues who just got juice, and they take a veteran roster and they add some level of youth and excitement. And I saw that from a guy like Overshown. So it's and also, he's a person. So
Yeah.
it's tough on him.
A good one. That's the hardest part about it. Is like this stuff just feels like it happens to the good ones. Like it happens to gentlemen like him. So yeah, it was a really, like you said, it was a tough night. And also, I mean, the play that he made when he got injured was crazy. He came flying down into the flat to make that tackle, and it's just, I don't know, it was difficult. Kind of how like MG, what year was it? MG last year, the year before last,
2 years ago,
where he tore his ACL catching that great 50-50 ball in the back of the end zone. It felt like, dang it, dude.
It's all good. Is there anybody in your house right now?
I think that's my cat. I'm about to lose my
my cat's in the other room too, so hopefully my cat doesn't hear your cat, but hopefully do you want to take a peek, or are you good?
No, it's okay. I have a kitten.
Okay. All right. Kittens get rowdy.
Pausing in my bathroom.
Right.
But it sounds bad right now.
It sounds like someone was breaking in. All right. Well, before we get into last night's matchup, I do want to talk about your work at DallasCowboys.com, Girls Talk, Boys Talk, the Draft Show. I love this time of year, because there's football to talk about, but my podcast stream kind of fills up. I'm a big fantasy guy, and I'm in a lot of fantasy leagues, and I also host a fantasy show on Tuesday nights, but I don't really listen to much fantasy content. I listen to draft content like Dane Brugler, you guys, Girls Talk, Boys Talk. So, but you've been working with the Draft Show this past season. I assume going forward, you're going to be there, and I'm looking forward to that. Now, who are some players briefly that you enjoyed, scouting this process that didn't end up on the Cowboys? Like, some players that you are looking forward to watching on other rosters.
Dude, I got so many. I have so many. Number one, I call him Swiper, Sidney Brown.
Oh my goodness.
Corner front. Yeah. For he played at the Illinois defense, and that
Yes.
defense they're so well coached. I don't know if they got enough credit for how well they coached those guys. They had a lot of good guys come out, but Sidney Brown, although he plays for the Eagles, he's flying around, and I call him Swiper because I feel like you'll just never see him coming.
Yeah, I like Sidney Brown.
Yeah, heck of a player. Seeing Tank Dell, really high on Tank Dell. I told Brian Broaddus like the third day of our draft show, I said, I think this is the most dynamic receiver as far as just playmaking ability in this draft. I felt like he was one of the best, if not the best route runner in the draft. And to see him already going into Houston and taking over that number one wide receiver spot with ease. I think they did a joint practice last week. So he's playing against other opponents, and he had 3 TDs, almost unguardable. I think Emmanuel Forbes was another guy I was really high on, and he's with the Commanders, and you're just seeing some of his development, and he still has that chippiness to it, to his play. So off the top of my head, those are a few of my guys. And then also too, Isaiah Land that is with the I know you said I couldn't, but
no, you could go there. You can go there. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
but yeah, and technically he wasn't drafted.
Right.
So
right.
So yeah, I think those are a couple of guys off the top of my head that I was high on really early in the draft, that I'm rewarded by their play. I feel like a lot of, since you cover the draft or you're into the draft, you see right now, it feels like a lot of people are like, oh, I was right about this guy. This guy.
Yeah.
All the kudos. And to me, it's selfish because it takes away from the player's ability to come in and they translate. So I'm more so encouraged and reassured by the fact that, yeah, like these guys, the character of the player was what I thought it was going to be as well.
I love it. And a lot of these guys were Senior Bowl guys. So I didn't get to see my guys from Titles and the CFB Nation. They actually got to interview Tank Dell when we were out there. We didn't talk to Sidney Brown, but he was calling the defense for the defense he was on. So that shows you how they didn't have a middle linebacker doing it. They had Sidney Brown doing it. And at the time, J.L. Skinner was one of the guys I really enjoyed. I know he had an injury late in the process. So I'm interested to see what happens with him. But did you make it out to the Senior Bowl last year?
No, I actually was not at the Senior Bowl. I really didn't go, but I was able to go to the Combine, and I did meet Sidney there, and got to meet his brother too. It was cool. Just again, like the character, and a lot of the guys where the game translates well for them, their characters on point too. They're coachable, they're open, and so the Combine was really dope too, because I got to meet a lot of these star players. Zay Flowers, him there, and he's killing it at the Ravens camp right now. So yeah, man. You mentioned J.L. Skinner. I gotta go check on him.
Yeah, I did. We interviewed J.L. Skinner, so I can actually send it to you. And I got a clip of him. I can't think of the Clemson tight end, but he was out. JL just bited him. But JL is like kind of cut from the same cloth as Jaron Curse and Marquise Bell, 6'3", 6'4", length.
Yep.
One of those guys, but he's solid. All right. But this isn't draft content, but I love the draft. And I wanted to pick your brain because I know that's your thing. And, linking up for the first time, I definitely wanted to, some guys, I loved Israel Bonaconda. Was so disappointed to see him go to the Jets because, especially now with Dalvin Cook there, so buried. But let's get into some Dallas Cowboys discussion, because there's a guy I want to start off with. All right. Eric Scott.
Right.
Okay. Rookie, thrown into the fire. I thought he looked solid last night. I thought he looked very good when he was beat by Jackson Smith and the Jigba. So on the first drive, he had a pass breakup to end the drive. Solid. Send the other team off the field, get your offense. When he got beat by Jackson Smith and the Jigba on a crossing route, crossing routes are hard to cover. Okay, especially from a guy going underneath. His recovery was excellent. When Jackson Smith and Jigba caught that ball, the ball was put in the perfect spot. Drew Lock dropped that in the basket.
He came out. I wonder. I think he put them on their heels a bit. I don't know if they expected for him to come out and really just start slinging the ball downfield like that. I was surprised by it myself.
Right. What are your thoughts? So after the game last night, but also, being around the Cowboys organization, what are your thoughts on Eric Scott this offseason, and what are your kind of your projections for him going into the season?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's there's some things he has to, work in his development. One thing I've learned, and I learned this past year, covering the draft, is that there are a lot of guys that can play press corner, like press man rather. It's a lot of guys that can play press man, but having the ability to play trail and to also sit in zones and things like that, I think he's still learning a lot of how those things break down, how those plays break down. And even against Jackson Smith and Jigba, I felt like he kind of panicked in route. I think he kind of panicked. He did look for the ball, but he's still working some of his technique things. That was something I felt from the secondary even last week, was that they had a little bit of difficulty getting through trash. There was some miscommunication. There was some looking in the backfield. I didn't really like the tackling all that much yesterday. So I think for a lot of these young guys, there are things that these coaches are, and this is the time to do it. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, this is the time to do it, where they're having them work different techniques and calls and schemes that maybe they haven't seen before, maybe they haven't experienced before. And don't make, it's I can't not mention that Eric Scott is going up against these teams' number one receivers.
Right.
I mean, the Cowboys' second string defense has played up against these teams' first stringers, and I think that they've come out strong to start these first few quarters when they've had those. Well, the first quarter when they've had to go against them. So, I'm honestly, like I said, I think that these guys also haven't had a lot of time to play together, so there's where some of the miscommunication comes in. But with Eric Scott in particular, it looks like they may be trying some things with him playing off, and they're testing him. They're teaching him. He's learning. These are like important reps for him. But I see upside in the player because I like his scrappiness. I like how he's not afraid. He has. I like him in press. So I want to just see how he develops into, zone, and seeing how he takes that on as well.
I like it. And you mentioned, he's going against the other team's ones, and even Deron Bland, who,
Yeah.
people are, he's kind of earned, his varsity ladder as of last year. But last week he was going up against Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
Now we're seeing Eric Scott going up against Jackson Smith and Jigba. One thing that makes me feel comfortable about this roster, and I hope it's just not me wearing blue tinted glasses, because I try to be generally a pretty unbiased fan, but I think the depth we have at positions like corner, right, with leadership that we have, I think when you mix the leadership and the credibility of the guys at the top of the depth chart with the coach's willingness to throw the young guys into the mix, now you're getting the experience, but you're also getting the tutelage from guys who've been there and who've done it and who've succeeded. That's such a good formula for creating continuous success, when you move through the system. And then I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, that was something I did not think about, even in response to like Trayvon Diggs, like him having like a real example to kind of, lead after he's been open about the fact that he was talking to Stephon Gilmore. Like, he's been getting mentorship from him from afar for quite some time now. So to actually have him physically in the building is such a big deal. I will say, in regard to the corner depth, since we're talking about the game, Deron Bland is, he's been getting work on the outside more. And they're allowing Kelvin Joseph to get at the nickel. It feels like, if that's the case, if that's what it's going to be, it feels like the swing of depth kind of falls to the nickel, because at this point you're looking at Deron Bland, you're looking at Jordan Lewis, who's going to be coming back from injury, and then you would have Kelvin Joseph at the nickel, and you have Israel Mukuamu, who plays the nickel sometime with big slots and stuff. So it feels like a lot of the depth is at the nickel right now. So I'm looking for, I felt like Nashawn Wright was having a good camp.
Yeah.
Really disappointed that he's dealing with that ankle injury, if I'm not mistaken. So it's there's some comfy depth there, but I am noticing that if Kelvin Joseph is going to be at the nickel, there's a lot more depth at the nickel than a boundary corner right now.
Yeah, and if we're going to go to the other side of the football and talk about depth, in years past, we haven't had the depth at corner. Like, we were relying on Anthony Brown. I like Anthony Brown, solid player, but he, I think, is one of the guys who kind of overperformed what people's expectations were for him. So going into the season, knowing you were going to have to give him meaningful reps wasn't the best case scenario. It worked out for the most part, but wasn't the best case scenario. also on the other side of the ball, wide receiver, we've gone into the seasons guessing
This
who's
is
going to
such
step up.
a whole new world we're in.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, and now you look at Jalen Tolbert,
Ooh,
with Jalen Tolbert, what I have noticed from him, what has been so impressive has been his concentration.
yeah.
He has been so thorough with seeing the football into his hands and
Mm.
coming down with the catch. I know he had a drop last night, but he had enough big chain moving plays to really, I'm all in. He seems like he was the alpha amongst,
Yeah, yeah.
not starters, but like you can't knock him for that's who he was kind of around. It's
Mhm.
more so the fact that he was there and he grabbed it and he took it. So what are your thoughts on Jalen Tolbert and the wide receiver depth?
Oh yeah, man. I haven't seen Jalen since mini camp, and I'm just so excited to be able to see some of those guys this week and just be like, just tell them how proud I am of him, dude. I know in this business and what we do, like we're supposed to be like, oh,
Mhm.
but I try to be as empathetic to these guys and honest with these guys. And Jalen's a guy where his work ethic is so off the charts, and it's a pleasure to see a guy battle back from what he dealt with last year. I don't think people understand how difficult it was for him to come in and the responsibility of what he was being asked to do
The
last
pressure.
year. But then add that with how our fans get down.
Yeah, yeah.
How critical people are of the Cowboys in a sense. So he was already getting the bus comments and things, and to battle back from that is something to behold. But like you said, he you've seen this last two games. You're like, okay, where's this guy doing out here? you're,
Right,
like,
right.
you're like, okay, what is this guy doing out here? He really has separated himself in a sense to me. And you mentioned his concentration. Absolutely, that's one of been the biggest things on display is when the ball's in the air. His tracking ability has been great. So I'm happy for him and for the idea that you're going into this season with even a four receiver that you're confident in, that you think can be a difference maker, is something that we haven't experienced here in a good little minute, besides when Cedric Wilson was here.
Oh, Cam says, here comes Coach's Tolbert story. Well, I guess everyone who's listened to the show has heard. I've been trying to get Jalen on the show. The reason, because I bumped into him at the Senior Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and it's at South Alabama, and a security guard didn't know who he was, so wasn't going to let him in. And I have credentials, so, I don't have field credentials, just credentials. So as I'm walking in, just a regular dude, security guard, not like some just standard general person. And I was like, hey man, like that's Jalen Tolbert. Like, and they let him in. And ever since then, I told Kyle this the other few weeks ago when he was on. So if you bump into him, let him know Coach is looking for him.
I'm gonna have to let him know he got some supporters out here. Yeah,
Yeah. I was like, man, it was easy to tell. But all right, so we're talking about support, but we're talking about how the fan base is, and the fan base is rough.
be tough. That can be
Yeah. Well,
tough.
this brings me to the next player, Mozzie Smith.
Oh yeah.
And I saw somebody write something that I actually feel, is a strong statement. And it's that he's looked better against it might have been Broadus who said it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm uncertain though. He's looked better against double teams than he has against one-on-one blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw a lot of one-on-one blocking, it seemed, last evening.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your overall thoughts with the progression of Mozzie Smith and, Micah Parsons? It seems like in a non-straightforward way kind of came forward and came to his defense, after last night's game. So what are your thoughts on Mozzie Smith?
Listen. I want to answer this question, but I think that my cat is in there wreaking havoc. I gotta go see what he's doing.
Yeah,
I have to, because he's scaring me. I feel
That's
like
good.
I'm tearing something out.
This is a first. This is, and I'm all for firsts. So you go check on that cat, and then we're gonna need a report.
Okay,
all right.
1 second. I'm so sorry. I'm concerned.
All right, no problem. I'm gonna pull in the producer for a minute while Iisha is going back there to check on the cat. Yeah. Good. Cam, you want to poke your head in here? Let the people see your beautiful face for a moment. My guy, Cam.
I can't. I can't focus. We need to find out about this cat. That's all I'm focused on at the moment. I want to know the story now. I want to know what this cat's done.
It's a kitten. So it's a
baby
kitten. Cat.
Well, that's worse, isn't it?
Less responsibility on the cat's shoulders. If it was a grown cat, we'd be much more critical of its behavior, but it is a kitten. All right. So we're not going to be Camp. Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Dog. So,
okay.
We're good.
Y'all.
What happened?
He was he was messing with stuff he hadn't been messing with. So I had to get him. I had to put the stuff away. I left stuff out, and he was like, he just meddles, y'all. He's only like 5 months. Just bear with me. But
What's his name?
Puff, like a hot Cheeto Puff.
Puff. I like it. I like him.
Spicy.
All right. Well, I mean, I think what is that? A self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah.
Like you.
I did it. It's me. Me. I did it. The name. But in regard to Mozzie Smith, so yeah, me and Brian have talked about this a couple times. I actually said on Girls Talk Boys Talk about a week ago that it's so crazy, but because Mozzie right now is learning technique that is different than what he was learning at Michigan. Even his stance is different. They're also working him at 3 tech, and this guy's used to being a 0 tech, so he's talking. Do you hear him?
He wants to get his word in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But so I think what's happening. So, and to say that, I think in a sense he's a little bit more raw than what people thought he was. This guy is really learning this position in a different way right now. And me and Brian were talking, and we were talking about just how, the knock people are saying like he's slow off the line. Mm-hmm. Well, I think he's just a little bit in his head. Me and Brian were agreeing that he's when he's sure, you can see it. You can see it on film. Like you can see it. And also too, I think when he gets those double teams, he's, he a little, he a little crazy. I think that gets him fired up. But when he's on these 101s, you were seeing him get. I was seeing him get turned yesterday. A lot of that is timing, and a lot of that is him trusting his technique. And I really. It's frustrating, especially since I'm just now learning about the DT position and everything it entails. Right. It's frustrating that a lot of people don't know exactly what they're looking at. They don't know what they're looking for. I can tell you, I'm still learning myself. So I feel like I feel it's disappointing to me that people are being so judgmental of him and things like that, because I don't think they understand how many changes he's having to make. And I also feel like this position, he's going to progress. Like he's going to progress. I just think we won't see it until we're in season and you start seeing him progress as things go on. He has some great snaps. And then he has some snaps that aren't super great. But then also, I also feel like they're conditioning him as well. We have to consider the fact that last week he played almost the whole game. This week he played almost the whole game. That's going to affect any player. I think they're building up his motor because, again, you covered the draft. His motor is something that is not super. He doesn't have a super duper high motor. So they're also conditioning him to get him prepared for those things. So you do see some wear towards the end of these games. And there's not a real rotation. Right. There's not a real rotation. These guys are out there for almost the whole game. So long story short, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
As far as Mozzie goes, I really have taken a step back and I'm letting him develop, because that's all you can do, man. Like you can't rush this guy. You can't be upset about him, but I do think he's going to have some important snaps in this season. He's going to be important to what you do. He's just still learning. He's a baby. I mean,
who does it sound like when you're talking about somebody who's playing in a position he's not necessarily comfortable playing in, getting a lot of experience and a lot of reps early on? Who does it sound like last year that started off a little slow, but now all of a sudden everybody thinks he's the next coming to Tyron Smith? That's Tyler Smith.
Yep.
You know? So
stuff, new things that he had before. Yeah.
But we're kind of spoiled because we do have Will McClay and we have drafted very strong. So people, it's who's next? Who's next? It's everybody wants everything immediately. And I mean, I'm victim of it too. I was watching it and I was like, man, I was expected to see some pop. I was expecting him to see him throwing some bodies. But, I also think the conditioning thing is a big factor because he's not going to play 90% of the snaps at his position. They have Rankins, Bohanna, they have guys that are going to be rotating at that position. He's probably going to play 40 to 50% of the snaps, at tops, and we're going to be hopefully getting people to 3rd and long, putting defenders in who could pin their ears back and go get the quarterback. He's not going to be out there for that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some other, rookies who unfortunately, went down with injury. DeMarvion Overshown, we talked about earlier with the ACL. John Stevens out there with the ACL. I know both of them are out for the year. So much promise. We look forward to next year, but with Overshown out, who do you expect? Do you think Jabril Cox, Damone Clark, Leighton Vander Esch, do you think that trio can, you think Cox can step up? You think Damone can step up? How do you think, it seems crazy asking who's going to fill the shoes of a rookie when he just emerged, but I think there were big plans for him. So what do you think is going to happen?
So I will say Jabril's going to get the chance. For sure, he's going to get the opportunity to show if he can take over that position. He's obviously come back from that ACL injury. You do see some decisiveness from him, a little bit more physicality than I think we saw from him last year. And so really it's also too, he and Devin Harper need reps. They need reps, like especially Devin Harper. This gentleman was out last year with an Achilles injury, so we didn't get to see much of him. But I was impressed by his draft tape. I thought that his attitude, his demeanor, he's a thumper. I like the way that he plays with physicality. So I do think that they're gonna definitely give these gentlemen a chance to show that they fit and that they can fill in. But I will say one of the biggest things with both of those gentlemen is that they need reps, especially at the linebacker position. There's so much to learn. There's so much directing traffic. There's so much communication that those gentlemen definitely need the time to progress and become confident in that position. And they have not, to this point, have not really gotten that. So it's really a look and see. In a sense, I do definitely think that both of them have upside, but they got to do the damn thing,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets cut, when roster cuts go around from another organization that's a veteran that, maybe Dan Quinn has experience with, just to bring in for some depth, because there is a lot of youth. But what you mentioned about them needing experience and how technical and, how much there is going on when you're playing the linebacker position, that's a testament to how, valuable Overshown will be going forward, that he was able to pick. He was calling the plays at camp 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, he had the green dot.
Yeah, and that's more about him and less about everybody else. That just means, he's very bright. He's a very bright individual who also, when you have that intelligence, football smarts, but then you have the physical capabilities that he has, and you can put that together, the future is very bright for him. And unfortunately for him, and the fan base will have to wait a year, but, we'll be all hoping and praying for him and, a quick, healthy recovery. Now Schoonmaker, he showed up last night, got some reps, and Asim Richards was out there, got some reps. So those two rookies, and, I'm going to kind of tie Deuce Vaughn into the Rico Dowdle talk, but what are your thoughts on the other rookies and their performances last evening?
Oh yeah. Awesome. So it's awesome.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize. He's Muslim, so
okay.
It's awesome. I try obviously being as respectful as possible to him. But yeah, awesome. I think he shows promise in the passing game. I definitely would like a little bit more aggression in the run game, but I think that'll come in time as he puts on size and obviously gets a little bit more confident. But his footwork is fantastic, I think, and he's also too, he takes pride in being flexible. He takes pride in being a guy that you can move from left guard to right guard. And he does give you doesn't have Tyler's power, but he does give you some of the Tyler vibes as far as, I'm just here to work. I'm going to do my job. And you can walk away from every game. Even with Tyler last year, he would make his mistakes, but you walked away every game like, oh, this guy's getting better. You can see the development. And Awesome Richards has just come in. And I know that, I know that like a lot of folks are high on him, and he has every right to be. I thought he was a good pick, and he played against some crazy competition when he was in college. He was going against some of the top edges playing in North Carolina. So he has some experience there too. As far as Deuce Vaughn, man, Deuce Vaughn is a running back, and he's just gonna keep showing people what he can do. I I I don't know. It's a little insulting to I don't know. I'm insulted for him that everyone's like, who's this Deuce Vaughn guy? And like, oh my God, this Deuce Vaughn guy. I'm like, did y'all not watch his college tape?
Mm-hmm.
Not watch him be a 2-time All-American? Did y'all not see him lead the NCAA in rushing yards? Like, this guy is a player. He's been a player. And one thing I love about him is I'm telling you, he's so kind and he's so happy, and he's just happy to be here. He's just happy to be here, and he feels blessed to be here, but he knows he belongs. Don't get it twisted. He's a competitor. And so I like just seeing him thrive. I like seeing him thrive right now. And I just think for this offense, even we've seen a little bit of it, just some of the motion and stuff like that. With Kevontae Turpin, Tony Pollard, and a Deuce Vaughn, yeah, you're gonna have to honor them if they go in motion. Like, people are gonna be afraid of their speed, and that's gonna help the offense. Absolutely.
Man, and that's kind of what I mentioned before about like what I was thinking, with Overshown was going to be with the defense, like coming up, bringing the energy, young guy to an already established unit. That's what we'll get to see from Deuce Vaughn. So as a fan of the Cowboys, I'm excited for the energy that we will feel as a fan base getting to watch this cat come in at games. Like, we're going to be holding our breath. Like, when he comes out on the field and it's his series or his play, no one's getting up to use the bathroom. No one's getting up to check on the cat. No one's getting up to get, you know what I mean? We're all like, what was that? I got to watch. And I'm super excited for that. I tried throwing in a little puff joke in there.
He's back
there. Yeah.
He's hugging me over there.
Yeah. Well, so Deuce Vaughn looked solid, super excited. But Rico Dowdle,
yes,
I was impressed. I was very impressed with how he ran the football, and I'm pretty confident and comfortable with him taking that running back 2 role. What are your thoughts on Rico Dowdle?
Yeah, I thought that he came out, he ran the ball hard, he showed some of his elusiveness and some of his vision. I'm really looking for Rico, hopefully this last game of the preseason, to put it all together. Obviously the first game he had the fumble, which seemed like just a catastrophic issue with the blocking downfield and some other situations. But then he had the missed assignment on the blocked punt yesterday. So really with Rico, I definitely like what I'm seeing, but I'm really hoping that he can put it all together, so he can be a little bit more confident in that. But I also want to highlight his pass pro. I felt like he really sacrificed his body a lot yesterday. He showed he wasn't afraid to throw his body around in pass pro, and to be a running back on this team, you're going to have to do that. So I think that Rico has definitely, the team was saying like Rico was coming, and it's like, okay, well, we haven't seen it, and to see it, it's been cool, because it kind of makes you a little bit more calm about the RB2 situation at this point.
Man, so you're talking about him sacrificing his body. Like, shout out to Boye Mafe. Like, Boye Mafe, I'm in. Like, as a, if I play in a fantasy football league with defensive players, I'm picking them up. Like, I'm sold. Boye Mafe looks like the real deal. So the Seahawks got a good one with him.
He gave Matt Let's-Go hell yesterday. It was a tough day for Matt Let's-Go before he went out dealing with injury. Hopefully he can come back and be okay. Sounds like he's gonna be okay, but yeah, he had a rough time dealing with that guy's speed off that edge, dude.
Yeah, and it sounds like the week prior, whoever was going up against them had trouble. So it seems like he's getting ready and preparing for a phenomenal season. So I don't want to keep for too much longer. I got 2 more notes here. I got Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
He's a backup quarterback, so it's not the most exciting thing, but I got to give him his flowers, because I said it on Twitter, and then I noticed like you said something like on Twitter right afterwards, like he was so just slice, dice, methodical. I was very impressed with Cooper Rush, like once he got into a rhythm of the game.
Oh yeah, I think that's also just a testament to what this system is now and what it's becoming, the play calling. And it's you could tell by even just how sure he was delivering the ball, that he was just he was great on third down in that drive. I thought that 80-yard drive was well put together. And I thought the play calling was good. It was decisive. And even when they got a little behind the chains, it didn't feel like a panic. And I liked that. And also too, I like the tempo changes and stuff. So he did. I think this offense now allows these guys to play a little bit more comfortable. And it was kind of dope to just see a few glimpses of what this offense could be in that drive. And so, yeah, I think it's encouraging. Crazy enough, even last game, I was thinking to myself, like, this was not a bad preseason game. I know that sounds weird, but I was like, there were a lot of good things to take from that game, especially on the offensive side. And then this week, you get that 180-yard drive. You walk away like, okay, I can live with that. I see the efficiency, like you said. I see the efficiency, and I see how quickly he's getting the ball out. And also, too, he was confident throwing the ball. You know, Cooper Rush is a guy that he doesn't have the strongest arm talent, but he was delivering the ball. That pass he threw to Jalen Tolbert was, I mean, that was a good pass. I mean, Jalen had to adjust, but he put there Jalen to get the ball. So I feel like there's some chemistry being built there. And I personally thought that was some of the best that I've seen Cooper Rush look as a Cowboy in that drive.
Yeah, I think the addition of Will Grier is pushing Rush. I'm assuming, I don't know Rush. I don't know what motivates Cooper Rush, but I liked Will Grier out of West Virginia, gunslinger, kind of likened him to a guy like Geno Smith. And I know that's a lazy comparison because they both went to West Virginia, both threw a lot of passes, both had talented athletic wide receiver groups, but I liked Grier. Last night, it was so, but
so, yeah.
Yeah, having Rush, I feel like, Rush seeing, because Grier does have good days and bad days. And I think, Cooper Rush has raised his level of play since then. And I want to finish with a player who it appears has raised his level of play, and that is Mr. Sam Williams. Sam Williams, tons of upside. We knew Dan Quinn had a little bit of a bromance with him last year, headed into the draft cycle, comes in as a rookie, very solid for limited reps. I think his pass rush efficiency and grades were phenomenal for the amount of times he even was on the field with an opportunity to rush the passer. Gets a sack in the first quarter, ends a drive. How are you feeling about Sam Williams for this season and going forward?
Oh, well, first of all, he's huge. Like, seeing him in person, I was like, Sam, when I seen him in the locker room, I was like, Sam, what were you eating this offseason? He was like, the same thing. I was like, okay, Sam's real chill like that. But in regard to Sam, he's similar in a way to even Mozzie. If you look at Sam's backstory from college, he'll tell you they weren't doing a whole bunch of schematic stuff at Mississippi. Where is it?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss,
Mississippi.
Yeah, Ole Miss. He wasn't doing a lot of schematic stuff. They were just telling him, go win.
Right.
He wasn't doing a lot of technique, fancy stuff. They were really telling him, go win. And Sam's also a guy that didn't start playing football until later in his life. So last year, I think even his limited snaps were because they're trying to teach him the position in depth. He is still learning that position in depth. So the offseason work he's gotten, and I was watching him, he's working with some specialists and stuff like that. I think that's just what we're seeing in him, and that he's getting it. He's getting it. I think I've liked him against the run when he's been in the preseason. I like how active he is, because whatever that end is that's opposite to Tank needs to be solid. Yeah. They need to be solid against the run, because that's where teams attacked you last year. Green Bay, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, people saw that your edge opposite of Tank, they're not gonna run at his ass, like, had trouble containing. And you shored up almost every weakness on this defense to this point. You don't want your edge not being able to contain being a problem. So seeing him come out and play the run well has been promising. I know Sam can get sacks. That's not what I'm worried about. I really want to see how he plays the run and how he performs there. So his development is going to continue, but I'm happy for him because, again, I always call him, I say a baby. I don't want to offend him or anything, but like
I doubt he's listening.
Yeah, well, I say a baby in this game. You'd be surprised. I say a baby in this game because he is still really learning the position. This is still very new to him. So, this year I do see him taking a jump because he's sure. He knows what he's seeing. He can play fast. He understands. So, yeah, Sam is a sleeper. He said he wants a 10-sack year. And I think he can do it because that interior is going to draw a lot of attention. And then no telling how much attention is going to be drawn to Micah and those guys. But a lot of people are going to have a lot of one-on-ones, put it like that.
I love it. I love it. And kind of similar to what I said earlier, when we were discussing Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore, the young guys like Eric Scott and Deron Bland getting reps and also getting to learn from those guys. Sam Williams, he's getting the reps and he's getting to learn from a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence, who's a savvy vet, and then a guy like Micah Parsons, who's just a dog. Like, great guys to be around. So this has been absolutely incredible. I really appreciate you coming on and, and giving us, all of your insight and knowledge, being as close to the organization as you are. Getting you on the show has been absolutely incredible. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about some of your content. Anybody who's listening to this, who's not familiar with your work, where they could find your work for the season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on DallasCowboys.com for Girls Talk, Boys Talk. We air every day of the week during the season at 4 p.m. Central Time. So you can check me out there. And also, too, they post them on YouTube. So we're there, too. If you want to interact with me at all, I'm pretty interactive for the most part. On Twitter, it's at Iisha Morrison. So that's 2 I's, Iisha. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions and stuff. I'm learning this game. We can learn it together and it'll be a good time. So yeah, that's where you can find me, man.
Excellent. Excellent. Hopefully next year, if you make it to the Senior Bowl, maybe we'll bump into each other or at the combine, something. I wasn't at the combine last year, but I'm going to try to get there this year, but I'm sure we will be talking as the season continues and hopefully we can get you on again at some point.
No, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity to come on and talk ball. And thank you for being so respectful of me. I appreciate it. And all the nice things you say. Like, I don't take those for granted. They help me. They help me keep going a lot of times. So thank you guys. And I hope we can do this again. Yeah. I'm down.
Definitely. We'll stay in touch for sure, and we'll get you on at some point very soon, maybe early in the season, so we can kind of catch up on some of the predictions we made and see how the players progress. But everybody who's been checking out the show, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You can find us on the website, toiletsandtitles.com. We got fantasy football rankings, redraft rankings, dynasty rankings, NFL draft talk. This week we're having Dane Brugler come on Wednesday night. Yeah, so looking forward to that. I'm in his DMs a lot too. So this is the 3rd or 4th year I've had him on. So looking forward to that. So it's a big week for us. But everybody, we got NFL coming up very soon. So stay safe. We will catch you all later on. Take care.